Hi there, Serial Trader here. I got a request for a comparison between Bitcoin USD and Ethereum Classic USD. So let's just have a look at that, see which one has more potential upside, and then I'll discuss some other points to consider as well. So the Bitcoin chart, and actually since the last video, we've now done another leg up after this nice little fourth wave pullback, as I had it labeled. And now at any point here we could likely terminate in a fifth wave to complete probably a larger wave one. So the first clean impulse wave off the bottom we had there in December of last year, December 18th to be specific. And then we'll be looking for some sort of corrective decline, and that would be kind of an ideal buying scenario to catch the next impulse wave to the upside, being a third wave. And that would also likely, just zooming out here a bit, that would likely be a third wave of a still larger developing third wave. And let's see here, just a 1-6-1-8 relationship between this wave 3, and let me just get this cleaned up a bit. Need a 4 and a 5, etc. But the so yeah, that run up from December 2018 to June 2019, a 1-6-1-8 length of that projected off the proposed bottom there from last December, where we bottomed right around 6,400 and change. So that 1-6-1-8, which would just be a modest wave 3 projection, would get us to 23,545. So not quite a 3x from current levels, but if you get down to somewhere in the 8,000s possibly, or even lower in a smaller degree wave 2 here, which I'm expecting once we finish up to complete this wave 1, you get, let's say roughly a 3x from that level if you could get that entry. And then that's certainly not, the maximum upside, but that would just be a reasonable expectation for a wave 3. And then of course you could always blow way past that and do a much larger relationship than 1-6-1-8, but and then you still need a wave 4 and a 5. So there'd be lots of upside as that trend progressed. But let's just call it a 3x to be somewhat reasonable. So that's BTC USD. So on a decent pullback here, if we get it, could get a nice 3x position. Now Ethereum Classic USD, let's have a look at that. So I didn't go ahead and label all the finer details of this large correction that Ethereum Classic had, but just to summarize, yes, we had a massive impulse sequence up there. It made a large high, actually a little bit after the 2017 high that Bitcoin made. Some of these alts peaked out the next month in January of 2018. Ethereum Classic was one of them. So on this Bitfinex chart, the Ethereum Classic peak was on January 14th of 2018. And of course we had this large correction down, but it is corrective, so that implies that at some point it will be more than fully retraced once this trending move gets going again, which it looks like it certainly has now. So basing off this low, okay, that Ethereum Classic made on the 7th of December 2018, and it's not the cleanest wave count, but some of these lower liquidity coins, they're just not going to have the same quality of patterns as something a lot more liquid like Bitcoin, for instance, or even regular ETH Ethereum. Is pretty good liquidity, usually has cleaner patterns, but still you can certainly get an impulsive advance off the lows there, 1 up, 2 down, 3 up, and then I had to really milk it to get this weird looking triangle, but it works. Wave 4 doesn't overlap because the termination of wave 4 doesn't overlap with wave 1, even though the A wave does. That's fine as long as it doesn't terminate in the price territory of wave 1. And being a triangle, that's just a way around it. and then a fifth wave up. Now I'm calling that the first wave up of a larger degree. Let's call it intermediate degree wave 1. Looks like we had a somewhat similar pullback here into, let's see, we peaked there. Yeah, so we peaked in June, but just earlier in June than Bitcoin. And we made a bottom here at a similar time to Bitcoin, so the 18th of December 2019. So just doing a rough count, didn't work too hard for it. I'm sure you could come up with a different corrective label, but it is obviously clearly a correction. I got WXYXZ 333 there. And okay, so off that bottom, we've had a very explosive move in a fairly short period of time. So we've gone from a low of 3.4. So far, we've gone as high as, and let me just snap it on this bar, as high as 12. So that's an enormous move. You know, roughly a 4x off the bottom or so. So that's nice. Or not quite a 4x, but close enough. Now it looks, I mean, it looks like it's an impulsive advance. Doesn't look like it has enough subdivisions to be counted as complete. Maybe you got a little 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you need another 5, 4, 5 to kind of complete this 1, 2, 1, 2 count. But it looks fairly mature on this sequence up. But let's just see a 1, 6, 1, 8 relationship of that will get us to around 14. So from the current levels of 11, that's not a huge amount of upside compared to Bitcoin just measuring from these points. But the thing is, I mean, this wave 3 could, you know, greatly outperform a 1, 6, 1, 8. I mean, we could easily, let's say we did something a little more impressive, like a, oh, we'll go with a 2.618. Throw that one up there. And even a larger 4x, just to get an idea. So 2.618 gets us to 20 and change, so roughly a double from current levels. And what would the 4 get us to? 30. So again, roughly a triple from current levels. But I don't really see it, at least right away here, offering more potential upside from its current levels. Again, I mean, if you got in down here, then you're doing great, and you'll do great. But if you get in at current levels, even a really impressive wave 3, you know, 4 times relationship with wave 1, that'd be a 3x, you know, roughly from current levels. Whereas Bitcoin, you know, is a lot closer to the level where you would realistically, you know, get an opportunity to buy in here and go for that 3x just up to that 1618. So kind of like in Bitcoin here more, but then if we change time frames, so zoom way out here on Ethereum Classic, and let's just say we get back to the previous all-time high, which being that this is a corrective pattern, eventually that's what you'd be looking to do. And what do we have there? As far as the high, just hard to get the cursor on there. Got to widen the bars a bit. Okay, so 46, let's call it 47 roughly. So from current levels at 11, you're looking at getting up to almost 50, and probably go beyond the high. You wouldn't just go to the high, but you'd go beyond it in a new trend. But let's just say you get to the old high around 50. That's roughly 5x from current levels. So you can certainly see the potential for this to outperform Bitcoin on a percentage basis. Although from the current setup, I would certainly be, you know, more keen on looking for a buying opportunity in Bitcoin. I'd have to see a nice corrective decline on this to get interested in some sort of fresh entry. But again, that's from current levels. That can certainly change as more pattern development takes place. Now let's go to the ETC BTC chart. So obviously the relationship between Ethereum Classic priced in Bitcoin has declined substantially from where it once was. But there are some signs that that's kind of turning around here. So this, I mean, this is basically going to show you the relative performance of Ethereum Classic to Bitcoin in a more objective way than just looking at those other two USD charts and trying to draw some conclusions from that. So if you believe that this is a corrective pattern off the top, which it certainly looks like a corrective pattern, it doesn't look like a impulsive pattern 5 waves down that would, you know, terminate the relative strength, you know, potentially forever, or whatever. This does look corrective, so it means at some point it'll be fully retraced, which means at some point Ethereum Classic relative to Bitcoin will be making new highs, which means on a longer term basis you would be likely to make more percentage-wise holding Ethereum Classic than you would Bitcoin. But then again, there are other risks entailed here. You know, not just looking at technicals, but okay, so Bitcoin adoption is certainly much higher than, well, pretty much all the altcoins, and certainly Ethereum Classic. So Bitcoin is more likely to just endure as far as its use case, just because it's already been so much more widely adopted. There's more actual points of sale. It's just more of a brand in itself. It has derivative products, you know, futures and futures options now that just recently started. And it just has a lot more overall public interest. So as far as, you know, going to zero, if all this stuff, or if a lot of this stuff fails, I mean, I think Bitcoin is less likely to disappear and go to zero. In fact, I think that's highly unlikely, and I don't even think it's likely Ethereum Classic will. There's certainly diehard users of Classic and many other alts. But my point is, it's just a little bit more of a safer bet, if you can have a safer bet in this space, to go with Bitcoin. But, you know, just technically speaking, it does look like over a longer time period, Ethereum Classic is poised to outperform Bitcoin on a percentage basis. So hopefully that kind of lays on my position for the relative strength argument there. And me personally, I'm certainly looking to go real heavy on Bitcoin on a nice pullback, as I've explained fairly in depth there in my last video on Bitcoin. And Ethereum Classic, I certainly wouldn't mind picking that up, putting on a fresh position. If we could, you know, say finish this impulse wave we've got here. I'm not saying it's done or even necessarily anywhere near done, but finish this and then get some sort of corrective decline, right? And it would probably be, you wouldn't want overlap with this wave 1 if this is indeed a wave 3. So get some sort of corrective decline, probably based off of higher levels there. Get that 4th, and then put on a trade for that 5th wave. That's kind of the setup I'm thinking for a new entry. If you're already in Classic from lower levels, keep on holding because it looks really good here overall. Yeah, that's probably all I really have to say about the topic for now. Serial Trader signing off.